the animations alone show that there's a lot of care and affection that's put in that character.
It is.
Now, yes, it is an action game. Think about everything we've just talked about, from religion to racism and the McKinley administration.
And we haven't got to the shooting
We
yet.
haven't gotten to the shooting part.
Okay.
It is. Well, once again, it's familiar but very different. You have powers similar to what you had in Bioshock with the plasmids. I don't get the same sense though that you're looking to sort of have them interplay in the same way. Because I remember there was a lot of, if you were a very good player at Bioshock, you could kind of string everything together and kind of really cause some mayhem.
I think that's a function of, I think it's a bit of, the introduction of power is a bit of a slower burn in Bioshock because we have so much narrative stuff, to go through, and skylines and all that. I think you saw the demo of the later level.
Yes, which is
Right.
quite dynamic.
Then it's like tears and skylines and your gear and your plasmids all have, your vigors all have, there you go. Your vigors all have these, they all have these upgrade paths, and your weapons have all these upgrade paths, and you also have all fires on your vigors or traps you can lay with your vigors, so they're all quite diverse, and the gear affects them all, and your weapon upgrades, change everything for you, and Elizabeth with her tears. So I think when all things running on all cylinders, that's why I want to show everybody that, because the demo, we want to start the demo at the beginning of the game because that was critical, but you don't actually get to where the game is running, the combat is running on all cylinders.
And you had the full palette
Yes.
that you can be pulling from.
And like I said before, if you want to check it out, you're more than welcome to, because it's pretty hard, but I wanted you to see that it's all there, and it's just, it's running, and it's crazy, and I think it's actually plus, in terms of that aspect.
Well, one of the things I think that indicates how challenging, and I think good challenging the game can get, is you've added that you do have sort of a shield layer in addition to your health. That you have this extra level, so that it seems to be facilitating a little bit more aggression and experimentation on the player's part, without really just sort of dying left and right.
Well, two reasons. Is because in the outdoor environment, it becomes more of a game of movement, especially on the skylines. Because also the larger spaces, when you walk through a corridor in Bioshock, you tend to turn around a corner and there's one enemy in front of you. That was a very traditional Bioshock experience, and you generally hit him with electrical bolt and shotgun him to death, and you're done. We didn't want that experience. Because you have these larger environments, sometimes just sort of figuring out where the attack is coming from takes a moment. And so the shield is helpful for that regard, because it sort of gives you that little bit of a buffer to react. And then to form a strategy, because the choices when you're in those big spaces are so much larger, especially when you have skylines and sky hooks and or hang points and Elizabeth and tears and all that stuff. And you just started to get a taste of. You just probably got a tiny taste of tears.
Right, and really only a tiny taste of sort of how you can really be using those skylines. Just a little bit of combat on.
Yeah, and you just probably that last big battle you had was in that space with the hooks around. I don't know if you noticed, there's hooks you can hang from.
Yes.
And the tears and the enemies and all that, and the various verticality. But then you're gonna have skylines introduced into that stuff, and it sort of keeps going and keeps getting richer and deeper and more varied.
So I think you just kind of answered, I think, a question a lot of people have had. The game was supposed to have come out this year. It's now coming out next year. It's going to be about 4 weeks later than originally anticipated for next year. You have a lot of stuff in the game. I'm curious, sort of, when did you guys realize that maybe this was a little more ambitious and you need to give yourself some more time? And if you don't mind my asking, what is it like on your end where you're not in a position to want to talk about the game, and suddenly there's all this speculation that you're not really able to kind of counteract?
Fortunately, I think, I'll take the second question first.
Go for it.
Because I've been in the industry for as long as I have, I think if I was younger, all that speculation would have worried me a lot more than it did, and I would have been more tempted to go out and say, no, don't worry, it's all fine. But at the end of the day, I knew, look, I'm going to give them the controller, and they're going to tell me the state of the game. Like, why am I getting into a discussion about, because look, people like dramatic stories, right? And frankly, you've worked at companies, people come, people go. It's not very exciting. There's no real there that's exciting. And
there tends to be sometimes personal agency that's involved with it.
Yeah, you get, look, and people have their reasons, and, why somebody goes and sort of goes, talks to the press and betrays secrets of their friends they still have at the company. That's all interesting. It's great fodder for, for various websites, but at the end of the day, I didn't see a point in getting into a conversation about it. I just figured I'd suffer the slings and arrows of it. I think it was more painful for people on the team because they hadn't been through this kind of stuff as much as I have. And I said, look, we're going to show them the game. And they're going to like the game or they're not going to like the game. And all these conversations are going to be moot, so I'm not even going to get into these conversations. And I was very confident about the mission we were on. So I was, so I was like, look, let's just have a stiff upper lip, and it will all take care of itself, one way or the other. Either say, well, it's true, it's all a disaster, or they'll say, oh, those stories were just, they're a tempest in a teapot. And now the other question.
Well, when did you realize, hold on, we may have bitten off more than we can actually chew by the end of 2012?
It was a sort of a string of events. One was, sort of the scale of the content that we realized we had to create after E3 last year. Because when we came to show it, we had a lot of people saying, oh, well, that game can't really be like that. It can't be that.
Where it's completely scripted.
It was completely scripted. And we knew we had to make, and it was a demo, and there were some scripted elements to it, obviously.
That happens in demos.
That happens in demos, because otherwise the game wouldn't be done. But that's, when we showed you, the reason we wanted to show you that thing right away and say, take the controller, was we say, look, that's the real deal. And here it is, no scripting, go at it. And when you play the game, and there's scripting, obviously there's scripting in the game, it's a component of the game, but when you first meet Elizabeth, that whole sequence is quite, scripted and plays that particular way. But then when you hit the beach, and it's like, like, okay, Liz, here you go. It's like when you have your kid and they're on their bike and you take off the training wheels and you push them out.
They realize that someone has let go.
And that wobbling, and we went through a long period of wobbling with her because it's extremely complicated. And but I think she was probably a larger challenge than we expected her to be in terms of just the populating the world with content that she found interesting, and just making her not walk into walls and things like that, and the mixture of narrative, the flow of narrative and action together, and how they could screw each other up, and that took a lot of working out to make sure that you watch out for edge cases and all that. And there's a million things we could have done to pull the ripcord on, but then it wouldn't be the game that we would have misrepresented what we were shipping when we showed at E3. So in some ways, it would have been much better if we weren't so ambitious, for our sanity at E3 last year. But once we were that ambitious, we had to deliver. We knew we had to absolutely deliver on that, because it got people excited. It got us excited. I wanted that game. I wanted to play that game.
Well, after playing 2.5 hours of it, I cannot wait to see more of it. Thanks so much for your time. March 22nd?
26.
26. Close enough. Anyway, thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Talk soon.